I guess this is the perfect time for you to be telling them that we're now hiring for my spot as tech person. Oops. Hey everybody, welcome into Folklore and Flourish. You're here with Jane and Mark. Today is February 16th. We are on day 2 of week 3, Love Lost and Found. Today's topic is the mourning. So we are all about the month of the beloved and the binder. We're in Love Lost and Found. Today is the mourning and our theme is grief and remembering. So on this journey today, we're going to look at Greek, Hawaiian, Japanese, and Inuit folklore. So we're going to see you after these 4 stories. Enjoy. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1. Orpheus mourns Eurydice. In Greek tradition, grief is not silent. It sings. Orpheus was the son of Calliope, the muse of epic poetry. From birth, he carried music in his breath. When he played his lyre, trees bent toward him, rivers slowed, even stones seemed to listen. He loved Eurydice. Their union was brief. On their wedding day, Eurydice wandered through tall grass. A serpent struck her heel. The venom moved swiftly. Before the sun had crossed the sky, she was dead. Orpheus did not rage. He wept, and then he descended. Few mortals enter the underworld and return. But Orpheus did not carry weapons. He carried his lyre. He crossed the river Styx, passed Cerberus, and stood before Hades and Persephone. There, in the kingdom of the dead, he played. His music was not demand. It was grief shaped into sound. The Furies wept. Sisyphus paused in his labor. Even Hades listened. When the final note faded, Persephone spoke first. Eurydice could return to the living world. But there was a condition. Orpheus must walk ahead of her and not look back until both had reached the upper world. Trust would be tested in darkness. He agreed. They began the ascent. The path was long and shadowed. Orpheus could not hear her footsteps clearly. Was she there? Had the gods deceived him? Doubt grew louder than faith. Just before reaching sunlight, he turned. For a moment, he saw her. Then she dissolved into shadow. This time there was no negotiation. Orpheus returned alone. He did not descend again. Instead, he wandered the earth singing of loss. His music deepened. It was no longer the song of celebration, but of memory. It carried absence within it. In some versions, he is torn apart by the Maenads, followers of Dionysus, angered by his refusal of other loves. Yet, even in death, his severed head continues to sing. Greek myth does not rescue Orpheus from grief. It allows him to carry it. His failure to trust becomes part of the lesson. Love is powerful, but doubt can undo what devotion begins. And yet, without that loss, there would be no Orphic hymns, no sacred songs of the soul's journey beyond death. His mourning shapes spiritual tradition. In Greek thought, grief is not weakness. It is testimony. Story 2. Hi'iaka mourns Lauhia'u. In Hawaii tradition, grief travels across oceans. Pele, goddess of volcanoes and fire, ruled the island of Hawaii. She was fierce, radiant, and quick to love. One night she dreamed of a handsome chief from Kauahi named Lahia'u. When she woke, she wanted him. Pele sent her youngest sister, Hi'iaka, to fetch him. Hi'iaka was gentle where Pele was flame. She agreed to the journey, but only after Pele swore an oath. She would not destroy Hi'iaki's beloved forest of lehua trees while she was gone. Oaths matter in Hawaiian tradition. The land listens. Hi'iaka crossed islands, fought mo'o, dragon-like lizard spirits, and faced dangers that tested her courage. After many trials, she reached Loia'u. She was too late. Loia'u had died of longing. Grief can kill as surely as flame. Hi'iaka did not surrender to despair. She called upon chants and sacred knowledge. She prayed to Kani, god of life-giving waters, and through ritual and devotion, she restored Lohia'u's breath. He lived again. Together, they began the long journey back to Hawaii. But time moves differently for gods. While Hi'iaka was away, Pele's jealousy grew. She believed her sister had taken too long. She imagined betrayal where none existed. In her rage, Pele broke her oath. She burned the lehua forest. When Hi'iaka returned and saw the charred earth, her grief was not quiet. She wept for the trees, for broken promise, for trust undone. In anger, she embraced Lohia'u openly before Pele's eyes, revealing that she had indeed come to love him during their journey. Pele's fury erupted. She killed Lohia'u again. This time, Hi'iaka could not revive him. Her mourning became part of the land. The volcanic fields and cooled lava flows of Hawaii are often understood as reminders of Pele's temper and the cost of jealousy. Yet, the lehua, blossoms that grow from lava, also speak of resilience. Hawaiian mythology does not separate love from land. Grief is etched into geography. The islands themselves hold memory. Hi'iaka's mourning is layered. She grieves not only Lohia'u, but broken covenant, sisterhood wounded, trust undone. And yet, the story does not end in desolation. In some versions, Pele and Hi'iaka reconcile. In others, Hi'iaka withdraws into independence. The myth allows space for both rage and restoration. In Hawaiian tradition, grief is not erased by divine power. Even gods mourn. Even goddesses cannot reclaim what jealousy destroys. The lesson is not that love fails. It is that love requires integrity. When oath is broken, something sacred is lost. But from lava fields, life still rises. Story 3. The Woodcutter's Crane. In Japanese folklore, grief does not always announce itself with wailing. Sometimes it is a quiet room, an empty loom, a door that will not open again. Long ago, in a small mountain village in Japan, there lived a poor woodcutter. One winter evening, he found a crane, Zutru, caught in a hunter's snare. The bird struggled, its white feathers tangled in rope. The man could not leave it. He freed the crane and watched it rise into the gray sky. Days later, a young woman appeared at his door. Snow dusted her sleeves. She asked for shelter. He welcomed her. They married. They were gentle with one another. Their poverty felt lighter in shared silence. One evening she said, "I can weave cloth. It will sell for much money, but you must promise never to watch me while I work." He agreed. She shut herself inside a small room and worked for days. When she emerged, She carried the most exquisite silk he had ever seen. It shimmered like frost on moonlight. He sold it. They prospered. But prosperity grows curious. The villagers demanded more cloth. Merchants begged for another bolt. The woodcutter asked his wife to weave again. She agreed, though her face had grown pale. Again she locked herself away. Again she wove. Each time she emerged weaker, her hair thin, her shoulders bent. The man began to worry, but he also began to wonder. What was she doing in that room? One night, unable to quiet his suspicion, he slid the door open. Inside, he did not see a woman. He saw a crane. Feathers plucked from her own breast lay scattered across the floor. With her beak, she wove them into silk. She looked up at him. The illusion fell away. I was the crane you freed, she said. I wished to repay your kindness, but you have broken your promise. She could not stay. She returned to the sky. The woodcutter stood alone in a house filled with wealth he no longer wanted. Japanese folklore often warns of curiosity, but beneath the moral lies grief. The woodcutter mourns not because he was betrayed. He mourns because he broke trust. He mourns because love asked for restraint, and he chose certainty instead. In some versions, he wanders for years searching the mountains for a glimpse of white wings. In others, he remains in his home, staring at the loom that will never sing again. The crane's feathers, once woven into beauty, become memory. Japanese storytelling rarely lingers in dramatic lament. Grief is held in quietness. It lives in the empty doorway. It hums in the absence of a voice once heard daily. The lesson is not that love was false. It is that love sometimes depends on faith. When faith breaks, presence departs, and the sound that remains is silence. Story 4. Sedna's Betrayal. In Inuit tradition, grief does not remain on land. It sinks. Far north, where sea and sky blur into one white horizon, there lived a young woman named Sedna. She was strong-willed and discerning. Many suitors came to her father's igloo, but she rejected them all. She wanted more than survival. One day, a handsome stranger arrived in fine furs. He promised warmth, comfort, and abundance. He spoke of a distant island where birds filled the sky and fish crowded the shore. Sedna agreed to go with him. But when they reached his home, she discovered the truth. He was not a man. He was a fulmar, spirit, a seabird in human disguise. His dwelling was cold rock. The food was raw fish. His cries were harsh wind. Sedna's grief began not with death, but with deception. She wept for the home she had left. Her father heard her cries carried across water. He traveled to rescue her. Taking Sedna into his kayak, he fled the island. But the fulmar spirit pursued them, beating his wings into a storm. Waves rose. Wind tore at a small vessel. Terrified, Sedna's father made a choice born of fear. He pushed her overboard. Sedna clung to the kayak's edge. She begged. To free himself from the storm, her father cut her fingers as she held on. She fell into the sea. From her severed fingers came the seals, from her hands the whales, from her blood the creatures of the deep. Sedna sank to the ocean floor. There she became Nulaoyak, mother of the sea, ruler of marine life. When hunters failed to show respect or violated taboos, she withheld the animals. Shamans would travel spiritually to comb her tangled hair, soothing her grief so the sea would release food again. In Inuit cosmology, grief becomes power. Sedna's mourning is not resolved. It remains in the deep. It must be tended repeatedly. Her hair tangles with anger and sorrow. Her creatures retreat when memory is neglected. This is not a story of romance. It is a story of betrayal, abandonment, and transformation. Sedna loses father, husband, and homeland in a single storm. Yet she becomes essential to survival. The sea answers to her. In Arctic storytelling, grief is not weakness. It is elemental. It shapes tide and hunger. It demands ritual care. The people remember her not only as victim, but as sovereign of what sustains them. Love echoes loudly in absence. So does betrayal. Hey everybody, welcome back in. You're here with Blue Box 29, Jane and Mark. Today is February 16th. Our topic is the mourning. So those stories, a little bit interesting take on some grief today with those 4 stories. Let's read our daily thread, which is across these traditions, grief is not the end of love, but its echo. Orpheus sinks into silence because memory refuses to die. Hina mourns beneath the moon, her sorrow becoming celestial rhythm. Japanese widows preserve devotion through ritual and quiet endurance. Sedna sinks into the sea, her betrayal transforming into sovereign. Each story reveals that mourning reshapes what love becomes. What is remembered with reverence continues to live differently, but still live. Okay, so when we go up to our first one, so we've seen this one before where Orpheus turns around at the last second and looks at her. We've really only looked at the loss itself, not his mourning afterward.
Right.
You know? So we've really just kind of judged why couldn't you wait a little longer rather than, oh, I wonder how after. So before we look at that with Orpheus, we're going to look at our lesson, which is that love echoes loudly in absence. So love echoes loudly in absence. I think that that reflects back on how Orpheus, he never did get another love. He sang for her always, Eurydice. And in some of the myths, that like leads to his doom. Or loses Eurydice twice, but his mourning becomes sacred memory carried in song.
What I'm enjoying about hearing these stories again, and I wrote it down today, is we get to see these stories now through a different lens, and I'm really starting to lean into that and how we are. So if you're watching these podcasts and you found us like in the middle, I don't know that it truly depends which order you watch it in, but go back and watch some and find the ones where they have the same stories. And
which you will see in a lot of the you'll see in the descriptions down below, but in the chapters, yeah, I missed a couple days. But in the chapters, I'll usually title the exact people that are in the stories if it's based on certain ones.
and it's
Specifically
just
Orpheus.
it's really neat because now I, even being a part of this podcast, am seeing like a way that I'm able to do it. And you might have already done this before, but me, I'm just doing this to where I'm getting to look at it a different way to where I can not necessarily judge it as much, to really be open to the story and what it's trying to show us and tell us. Because in one way, when I looked at this story, was like, well, it's your own darn fault, like you get what you get.
Yeah.
But then now it's like, ooh, he's really digging into it. And me today, when I look at people that are grieving, I have this whole spiel that I go and talk to them about it, and how it is okay to grieve,
right?
But for only amount of time, to truly do that.
And so,
but that's a discussion for another time, and it's like,
and so looking at this with Orpheus, he never had another love and he sang about it. He used music through his grief. So would you say that kind of encompasses what you mean? Like, do you just mean grieving and standing still? There's only a certain amount of time for us to stand still, to where not like, oh, there's something wrong with you, but no, we should be concerned. Like, that's when help is going to arrive, kind of stuff, to get you out of it. So what did you think about Orpheus using his grief to create music? What did you think about that? Just as someone who loves music, too.
I think it's a beautiful way to use your grief, to turn it into something, because I am a huge fan or advocate or however you want to say it of everything happens for a reason, right? So at some point in time, those songs that he sang, someone needed to hear those songs for them as well. So he needed that pain to happen to him in order for him to write those songs. So then in turn, somebody else could hear said song to help them through something.
Right.
So it was just some chain of events that had to happen, and he just chose it. Guarantee you.
Oh, this is the book that I said that I have that my mom told me that she really thinks that I would like. I believe it's this one, but it's Ovid's Metamorphosis. I have it. It's a pretty big book. It's one of the classic literature pieces. You know, we're on the trying to read all of the ones that we can, but the myth of Orpheus appears in that. I need to jump into that. I really need to finish the Iliad. I'm excited to do the Odyssey after the Iliad. I'm glad I went in this order. I've read the Odyssey before. I've read it to third graders, obviously the third grade edition. It's so fun. It's exciting, the Greek tales, because just like this story, you get to see all aspects of it, the underworld and everything, you know? I mean, we heard the Japanese story. I believe it's Izanagi and Izanami. I don't know if that's Japanese. I can't remember. But when they close the door, like this is before that door's closed and everything's open.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited for that because then we get to hear more about these stories that came in and we get to see the aftermath. Yeah, Orpheus's music probably inspired others. I want to be loved like that. You know, when we see other people and we assume we know, right? But we do see people authentically loving each other in public, and you go, like, that's what I want. Like, because we can feel it coming off of them. And that's what his music probably did for some people. Maybe even helped some, like, men of that time of, if I don't love like that, I won't love. Or some men were probably like, I don't want to love if that's what it's like.
Right.
You know, so just what you said, it definitely influenced people.
Mm-hmm. And that's how things are. Just like this conversation just influenced me to think of, like, that's exactly what you need to do. When you read these stories, just the way you read them, like the way you're reading, you need to record yourself reading these stories and then just like how you read them and just read the whole story. Then we can edit it with like little videos in there, edited, whatever, to go along with it and put it on YouTube. And that could be part of your whatever. I'll guarantee you.
Oh, I've thought about that. I just don't know how to do that stuff. I would really like it to be, so you know the Harry Potter 2, the final movie, where you see the Deathly Hallows, you know, where they say the story of them, the three brothers, and how it's like, it's not full animation. It's almost like wistful and like outlines, and it's like the glowing and stuff. I almost think that some of our stories could be written like that. Like it's not full animation all the way through, but some of those darker ones, it is like that creepy kind of like more of that Tim Burton style.
Mm-hmm.
But I've thought about that. I just don't know how to do that.
That'd be so fucking cool.
And that would be a time consumer, so I couldn't do it for the day-to-day one.
Mm-hmm.
But I could definitely, in the future, we could make a full Orpheus tale. And that could be like a whole separate thing, is just bedtime stories, you know? Like that's what you're saying, right?
Just reading the book.
Like, yeah, that's what
you're
I'm saying.
reading it, and just record yourself while you read it, and then we have it. So it'll just be saved, and then we can just go back and use that.
Yeah. Well, we have all the stories recorded, just the stories too. Not just in the podcast. Yeah, because I had to edit all the stories separately. Yeah. So we do have all of them. All right. So the second one, the Hawaiian one. So this is where the sister assumed that the other one wasn't coming back, betrayed her, destroyed the only thing that she, you know, asked her not to. Now, the sister did fall in love on the way back, but they came back anyways. So they weren't going to move forward on that. Or at least we assume, through this. But we have no idea either. Because Pele took away that opportunity too. So there's a little bit of the assumptions, but also Pele took away the opportunity for later betrayal. That could have happened, may not have, but
more than likely,
it just severed all ties. Like that guy was brought back and then killed again. But the younger sister, lost her companion that she just made, and her sister. But that is who her sister was too. Right. She was the flame. So there's also that. But in Hawaiian mythology, grief is inseparable from land and promise. Love echoes through broken oath, and mourning becomes part of the living earth itself. We've talked about that a lot with Persephone. When she leaves and we have autumn and winter, the earth is mourning. And that's exactly what the Hawaiian mythology talks about. Is how deeply connected we are to the earth, that it mourns with us, it celebrates with us, it gets angry with us at times, and that's what Pele did. Pele is that anger, and taking away certain opportunities before they can even arise. And so, I don't know, I like this one, but everything was lost. Everything in the end was lost. And, whether anything changed or not, whether Pele changed or not, everything was different. So there wasn't really any going back anyways. So this one is mourning what was and what cannot be again. Because even if they reconciled, those things happened. Kind of like when we say things or we do things and it's like they still happened. Things aren't going to be the same, but we can give them a chance by trying. Or if you can't, if there are things that we're like, no, I can't move on from this, then we have to be willing to move away, completely and stuff too. So that's a hard lesson as well. But they couldn't move on from it. The damage was beyond repair. So they went their separate ways. But they are mourning the love that was there before too. Just because something happens doesn't mean all that love that came before wasn't real or it didn't matter. I think is a big story here. Is everything that happened before, that was still real. The woodcutter's crane, so the third one, this was talking about how it was emphasizing on Japanese widows in general a lot of the time, and how kind of towards the end of the lesson, the end of the story, it was talking about how grief is held in quietness. Grief is held in the empty doorways, the thresholds. January was all about the threshold months, and that's where grief lays in Japanese mythology. And so the end where it says, the lesson is not that love was false, it is that love sometimes depends on faith. But when that faith breaks, when that oath is broken, like that last story, when the doubt comes in, like the first story, it just silences the room. And that's what it did here again. So what did you write down?
So story 3 was the one in particular that I did end up writing stuff down. So looking at it through the different lens, looks at it how, you'll have to edit this how I say this, or I'll say it again. But so looking at it through a different lens, looks at it how terms, wait, those were in terms too. So like the way I kind of heard it this time was she was paying him back for his good deed, right? But then as soon as he was no longer worth that good deed that he did, as in keeping his word of not looking, then that she could leave. Because then now her oath to this man is so good, so long as you keep your word.
Right.
But now you haven't. So now I'm free to go back.
And it wasn't like a, because I think what you're saying,
it wasn't like a how
it
dare
wasn't an
you.
imprisonment. It
No.
wasn't anything like that. It was, she was awestruck by his kindness.
Mm-hmm.
So she came back to give back to him for his kindness. And yeah, as long as he was that kind man, she would stay.
Mm-hmm.
As long as he was the man of his word, she would stay. But it was as simple as that. There was no going back.
Yeah, because
how can
once
I
the
ever,
trust is broken, you can't.
How can I ever trust you in confidence to keep a promise, keep an oath, if
And
you
then,
haven't when it was the most important?
and
That's
then,
what's hard.
right. And then looking at it through the lens of where the story we're supposed to be is him grieving that.
Mm-hmm.
That, man, I really...
His lack of restraint was what he was grieving over, that he knew that sometimes love requires faith and your resilience and your commitment and follow through to just trusting. But that's the thing too, is there was nothing that happened prior that would make any doubt need to happen. Outside forces, again, could potentially be a thing, but it's not, oh, I need to trust everyone. I need to respect everyone. You're my partner, So if I want this to work, I'm going to have to trust. But then when it's broken, sometimes there's no fight. All of these stories, there's no fight, there's no yelling. It's just a quiet, it's over. And that is where the mourning soaks into the earth and the grief really sticks, because I think that's like the deepest kind of pain.
When there is no fight, that's...
when it's in silence, like it's that, that love was there. There's no need to fight anymore because it's gone. So why even make it?
Because it truly is.
Mm-hmm. And that, it's hard. So this one, the Japanese one, it says in this tradition, grief is not loud, but enduring. Love echoes most clearly in the space where trust once lived and can no longer return. So that desperate need to move or to get rid of things, like after you've walked away from a relationship, it's because the intentions, the emotions that are attached to it, it is painful because they don't relate to you anymore.
Yeah.
Is kind of what this one is saying. So that threshold to him now is always. And so searching the mountains to just get a glimpse of what he used to have. Too. Kind of like when you miss someone, and so you go somewhere that you used to go with them to just feel their presence, and that's enough. Yes, I would want that person back, but with what he could do, just going places to potentially feel them.
Right.
That's all he had left, because he knew what he did was the end.
Yeah.
And she wasn't coming back. Exactly. And he probably felt like, by the way this story sounds, that was the course of action,
Yeah.
And so now we're going to take a huge shift with our last one.
Right.
It was and that's what's so exciting, is that you get these stories, different perspective, and you love and you feel whatever. And then we're hit with a story like Sedna's betrayal. So we're talking the Arctic regions. We were talking about the Northern Sea earlier this morning, the thing that we always hope we would never be capable of doing. We always hope that we're the hero. We always hope to be the one filled with courage and to be the savior and stuff. And while this one, just dad went in to save her, didn't anticipate what was there and sacrificed her because he was afraid. ultimately he sacrificed her to the deep. I mean, like, she wasn't going to be back with him, but he sacrificed her for his own life.
Right. So hearing this story, I audibly said, what the fuck? Like, as I'm listening to the story. And by the end of it, like I was saying earlier, as I said earlier, everything happens. There is a reason that everything happens, right?
Right.
So my initial then I'm like, oh, okay, that's why. So I understood later, but in the moment I was like, no freaking way. What the heck? You went all the way, you went through all this to go rescue her, and then you're just gonna that quickly give her up.
This made me look into something. So we will be doing a cut of this. I don't know if it'll go on yours or like a separate YouTube channel in my account or whatever. But I wanted to look into, because not everyone has parents that are the heroes. Some parents are the villains, of their children's lives, of their stories.
Yeah, for sure.
They are destructive. Not that this dad he went to go save her, but in the end, his fear took over.
Yeah.
His moral compass. I had friends that I felt like their parents would have sacrificed them in a blink of an eye, and not necessarily out of fear like this,
right?
But out of greed, and that is something,
and I think there is a difference there too. This story, I don't think
this out of fear.
This was I think even after the fact, I think if there's a story of him afterwards, I think his grief kills him in this story.
Right.
Afterwards.
And that's the thing too. We don't see what happens long beyond that. We see her mourning turned into the spirits of the ocean. We don't see his yet. Yet. I told you that I believe there's 2 whole months where we talk about heroes. Right? So the quest and the journey and the tricksters we meet and the choices that we make in learning from them. And so, yeah, I'm hopeful that we'll see him again. I can't tell you on the top of my head if we do, but
right,
I'm sure we will, because we also have things like Father's Day, Mother's Day that will come up too.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe that I structured around that stuff, but yeah, no, absolutely. This is out of fear. And of course, we aren't faced with these realities nowadays.
Right.
I've seen a lot of parents put themselves in the line of like harm for their children in today's day and age. I mean, just think about when we get in a car accident. Instinctively, you see parents reach for their children and stuff. We talked about that in the movie The Blind Side, where he puts his arm out and does that. This was that deep-rooted fear that in today's day and age, I mean, where you and I are at, in Nevada right here, everything's fine. We don't have to worry about that war or anything like that. But these were deep realities, like deep fears of the unknown, of the shadows, of these creatures that could go beyond scientific explanation. This is deep-rooted fear. This isn't, I'm giving you up because I want this more than you right now. Right. But like he said, he did love her, because if he heard her cries that far and he went for her. So yeah, there's definitely, I'm sure, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him in October with the rotting away, with the themes. I dug into the darker themes in October with some fun stuff too, but obviously the witchy month. But we might get into grief that rots from the inside out, to where you look fine, but you're kind of a puppeteer to your own emotions. Because those are the really scary ones. When you are just like kind of zombieing through life, and you think about who's like in control of you then.
Right.
It's like you're whatever's left of your soul, in your mind. But anyways, with all of that, we will have a little thing after the episode on one of our pages. I looked up some of the best and worst dads in history, because I wanted to know, who are they? Because I know that there are some in history that were like, I mean, just for royal alliances. You
Right.
sell off your daughters a lot easier
Yeah.
than your sons. And there are still places around the world where still to this day the sons hold everything and the women are the bargaining chips, you know? And that's the way it is. I mean, it's easier to bargain off a female who doesn't have rights to stuff than a man or my son, you know, that does.
Right.
Pretty much what I'm saying. But anyways, we're going to look at some of the best and worst dads. I didn't specifically look at male or female, so we get to look at some. The number one, I'm a descendant of, so that's really cool and exciting. I hope it says he's a good one. But those are our 4 stories today. And
Wait, you're not gonna say?
no, because we're going to jump into it in our extra. We'll have a short, or we'll have a video that'll be the best and worst dads, and they can jump in. Yeah, the number one is someone that I'm a descendant of.
Well, that's interesting. So I guess you'll have to show up to that short to find out, and I guess I'm gonna have to record
And
it.
it's not Genghis Khan, because that would be like
That'd be
an
epic.
easier one
I
to
probably
guess.
am though. So maybe. Anyways, okay. So
But with those stories in mind,
the fories,
the 4 stories,
the fories,
the stories that we just listened
the
to.
fories, the 4 stories.
These 4 stories, the theme was grief and remembering, and our lesson is that love echoes loudly in absence. What still hurts is our reflection question. So what still hurts? We talked about how within these stories, there are so many different aspects we can be focused on. Orpheus, it was his doubt is what he was upset about. It wasn't, I lost her. It was, I was so close and I couldn't just believe that she was there.
Right.
I couldn't just rely on faith. Same, the Japanese, story. I should have just done what I said I was going to do, which was nothing. It didn't require anything except the lack of action.
Yep, from both of them.
Mm-hmm. I'm saying, I'm going to do this for us.
Yep.
And just believe me, the second one, the Hawaiian one, the mourning of the destruction, and they could not come back. What hurts is that I love you, but like as a sister, I love you, but it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of where they were at too. And of course, they destroyed lives. Like Pele destroyed life.
Yes.
Because of that. We're not talking about I wore your t-shirt and now like we're done. And then our last story, yeah, at what point does it click that I would have rather died? As that father would have rather died than, because ultimately you have to face yourself for that choice you made. But whatever else he believed in, so Inuit, that, there's someone he's going to have to answer to at the end, and they're not going to, I can't even say what they're going to do because I have no idea. But as someone who, I'm pretty close with, like my dad, that would be heartbreaking. And then as the daughter, to have to wait or to see your dad, because what if she's at peace eventually and she's watching her dad kill himself over what he did?
Right.
So there's so many aspects of that I am excited because we will see.
And or yeah, because and that was my first initial thing. And then as we sat here, my initial thought was like he could have been so heartbroken that he ended himself or whatever, but possibly no, because he could have been like, I rescued her from that evil and I set her free. That could be another aspect that this story could be told from. So, like I said, like you're saying, we will see it hopefully again, because I'm excited to see the different ways it's going to show us.
And there's so many
animals. It doesn't have to be a tragedy.
And there are so many animals that it could be either or, right? So her fingers turned into the seals.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, and this was before you said that, if he did end his life, the amount of sharks and whales that live in there, the Arctic oceans, and they're solitary most of the time,
Or he went back and he became an iceberg. Who knows?
Or he became a humpback whale that protects the seals from the psychos of the ocean.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about them. They can hear us. Stop.
Free Willy. That's what he does.
Okay, but like, I do want the orcas freed from captivity.
Well, everybody
but I also think that they're kind of...
Well, they're hungry.
Yeah. Anyways, today we're thinking about what still hurts. What still hurts us influences how we love and how we are loved. Like I said, that's all we're figuring out this month. Who am I as someone who is loved? Who am I as someone that loves? And sometimes there are things that still hurt from our previous relationships that when we see just a glimpse of that, it's terrifying, or we shut down easier. So other times it's things that we've done in our past that, we're terrified to bring up because it still hurts us. Like, what hurts is who I was in moments of trial and tribulation, right?
Right.
Orpheus, what shames him, I didn't have faith because, I loved her so much that I went to the underworld for her, but I didn't love her enough to just have faith in her in the end, And so what still hurts us can influence whether we are capable of moving forward or not, or if we have to take a different path and show people through song, show people through our leadership, through our choices. Sometimes it is a solitary thing. But today is really exciting. I really like this. It's a lighting candle activity. I really like anything with elemental work.
Yeah.
So we're going to light a candle and sit with one unresolved grief. We're going to sit with that unresolved grief with a candle lit, and we are not going to seek closure. So we aren't going to seek closure. We aren't going to seek to, and specifically what I'm talking about is we're not going to try to say this is why or nothing like that. We're not reasoning
I kind of get why we are doing this, though.
It is to just acknowledge what still hurts.
And you're surrendering to that. Opening yourself up to these type of things, I truly believe, is the doorway to healing yourself through this stuff. So this is amazing. This is an amazing practice for it. Like, if you truly are honest with yourself, and you're able to sit there and what is that I need to light this candle about, and not worry about like what you're saying.
And just acknowledging, because sometimes I'm not seeking closure. I'm just, what bothers me is that I never got to apologize. Or what bothers me is this and that. Wow, it's something I can do something about, actually. But other times when we sit with it, we acknowledge that it is done. Like, these 4 stories really emphasize there was no coming back from these things. So we're sitting with something, and I am going to try to think of something that there is no going back. There is no closure of it. It's done, and that's closure in itself. But sometimes we just have to acknowledge that, like you said, just sit with it, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I can let it be a part of my story, or I can move forward. And the next time I'm presented with something similar, I can remember it then. So that's it. And as we do that today, we're going to think about how love echoes most clearly in what is mourned rather than forgotten. So love, the way we love others, is shown through our mourning. And I think it's really important to reflect on that Japanese story and that cultural tradition of mourning is not loud all the time. I don't need to destroy my life out of mourning or sadness, And I'm saying that like I used to, right? When things weren't as big of a deal, but I made them a bigger deal. And so I'd go drink myself. Is it sometimes like that? Yeah, sometimes it is ugly. But this is, mourning through living too. I'm going to do this because I'm mourning for them, and showing that as well. So just remembering that mourning isn't always loud, and it's not always bad, destructive, or dangerous. Sometimes it's seeking out beauty.
Yeah, it can be used as a beneficial thing if you allow it to. It can go both ways. Absolutely. It can either be used to destroy, or it can be used to build and blossom something beautiful. So it's your choice, ultimately. am I going to build or destroy with this grief?
So that's all that we have for you guys today. And that was February 16th, the morning. We are in the middle of Love Lost and Found for tomorrow, week 3. So we'll see you guys tomorrow.
See you guys. Love you. Thank you for coming in.